Jack Jackson lives. And so does Jack DeManio. Rose, Rose, I love you. Fantastic sound. You may not think so, but during the war, Jack Jackson, who was, I suppose, a forerunner of the disc jockey, played that every Sunday to keep our spirits alive. Rose, Rose, I love you, from a delightful Chinese singer who kept everybody's spirits going in the 1940s. Ha-ha, long time ago, isn't it? In fact, we're not very far off from it being 100 years, I suppose. But that's a delightful piece, Rose, Rose, I Love You. That's the original version. This is Keith Hayes with Rouser Radio, coming out of Lewes in East Sussex. Had some really good chats yesterday with some of the local legends in radio. First of all, I met with Kevin Kramer, who has been a leading light in local radio here for a good many years. Very experienced man. It was good to chat to a professional. And I also had a chat to Stephen Catlin, who is an eager, I shouldn't say amateur, about anything to do with Stephen. He's a very professional man. He's a local councillor, likely to be mayor next year, looks after much of the public gardens in Lewes, and he has a really fine way of looking at things. And like me, he's getting on a bit, but nonetheless very active. So I had some good chats. Bankers waste of bloody time. Told on the phone, go into Brighton. Walking through the front door, we will look after you in terms of your needs. Get there, first of all a queue, so you can't walk in through the front door. And then the bloke that we spoke to is, oh no, you can't do what they said, you'll have to fill in this form, go away and come back. What a bunch of old bollocks, really. I mean, the banks have been awful during this crisis, and they don't show any signs of getting any better, and I think there's going to be a revolution. The banks are going to have their knees cut off, and if they don't, then I think that the government will be in trouble, because that's one area where they have not been at all helpful, and there are a lot of people still in huge pain because of the way the banks have behaved. They're all right. They get their salaries. They open their doors every day. But I'm afraid that the way that they've reacted to this shows the need for reform. Shows the need for reform in many, many ways. And I'm absolutely... I mean, I read daily the criticisms of Boris. Okay, he's quite a colourful character. And it could be that a lot of what's said about him is true. What I think is that probably Boris is a charismatic leader, but doesn't pay too much attention to detail. And I empathise with that, if that's the right word, certainly sympathise with it, because I'm the same. I can paint broad brushstrokes. I can have visions. I can put down great plans, but I need somebody else to implement them. I'm not very good implementer, and I suspect that that's Boris as well. And if that's the case, then hopefully what we're seeing is some sort of change. Now, I bear no axe for his henchmen, but the civil service at all levels in this country is out of hand. And one of the discussions we had yesterday is the fact that the tail has been wagging the dog for a long time, and that the politicians at all levels again are elected and actually sit down and say wise things and nod sagely, and the executive, that is the civil servants, actually push them around and tell them what to do. Crazy. In the long run, civil servants work for the people, and they work for the people through the people that we elect. And if the people that we elect aren't bossing the show, take advice, yes, but aren't bossing the show, then it's time for change. Whether that's a change in our political system or a change in the civil service, I don't know. But I do smell the winds of change. When civil servants begin to yell that they're being hurt, that's the time to think that if they are being hurt, there is something going on behind the scenes that is undermining their sacred ways of doing business on our behalf. Ha ha ha. Oh, am I cynical this morning? Anyway, it's that Jack Jackson with Rose, Rose, I Love You. And this morning I was 3 minutes late on the air, so I've kept Jack DiManio alive. Jack DiManio, a later version of Jack Jackson in the 60s and 70s, and he could never get anything on time. He never started on time, he never finished on time, he couldn't get the time right, he couldn't get the date right, he couldn't get the day right. And he became a very, very popular man. People found themselves halfway to work on a Sunday before they realised that it wasn't the Monday that Jack DiManio had said it was all the time. But they forgave him, because he was a real character, real BBC character. They don't have too many characters anymore. Not competent people, but not characters. And broadcasting was meant for characters. Bring them back, I say. And one of the characters I spoke to yesterday is an old pal. I've known him since about 1975 or so. A chap called John Henty is a great character around town. And John Henty was a BBC radio in Brighton for the longest time. He tells me that he had a stint at Meridian Television in Southampton. I don't know, was it called Meridian then? I think it's changed its name since then. But he is still, once again, as old as me, poddling around. He wrote a column in a local magazine, which has unfortunately bitten the dust because of the coronavirus situation. But anyway, John is good company, and some of his comments are very interesting. I don't know that I agree with anybody that I know, but what I do know is that we are all good enough in our beliefs and have stuff to back it up. It's not just opinion formed from nothing, to be able to have damn good arguments. And arguments we do have, but what comes out of that is good things. Right, what good things have we got this morning? Let's have a look, because there's something called Everglow that I picked up this morning, and as you know, I ask you to experiment with me. I never hear any of these pieces of music that I play before I play them to you, so together we can make up our minds. Let's try Everglow and see what it's like. was all right. I quite enjoyed that. Now, yesterday I took you to Armenia and to the lovely sisters, Star and Ivan, and I had a little note from them. They listened in. How nice. They're terrific people. But I spent a lot of time in Northern Ireland, and if anybody is listening from Northern Ireland, they will perhaps remember me vaguely from past days, if you're once again old enough. I was there from 1975 to 1989, a long time. I went with the BBC on a 2-month contract, and one way or another, because it kept on being renewed for a while until they got fed up with me, I stayed, and I happily evolved, found a young lady who had a lot of talent, and I brought her along, Gloria Hunniford, who has done reasonably well since. She now appears on... what is it? Cheating Wives? No, it's not Cheating. No. That's what a dreadful thing to say. It's something Wives, anyway. And they have a chat show, and they get 3 or 4 of them together, and they discuss things of the day. It's all very light-hearted, but it's all jolly good fun if you tune in. That's on television, of course, not radio. But during the days of Gloria, I was known as Old Baldy. And we used to play some funny tricks because nobody ever saw me. Old Baldy was an unseen quantity, so nobody really knew what I was like. So we would go into public places, and sometimes I would get the makeup artist to make me bald, and sometimes to wear a wig. And it's astonishing, even those people who know you, is they know there's a difference, but they can't tell what it is. So we had lots of fun in those days. I can remember there is those of you who know Northern Ireland will know it has some wonderful delights tucked away. And one of those that I enjoyed enormously was a little village called Portaferry. And Portaferry is on the end of the Ards Peninsula, right, about as far as you can possibly go south in Northern Ireland. And we would drive down to Portaferry and go to, I can't remember what it was, perhaps it was the Portaferry Arms, that sounds familiar, which always had very good food and a good atmosphere, and it was a country inn, and it was more country inn than some of the pubs we've got in this country. Always a pleasure to go to, but I can remember very shortly after I got to Northern Ireland is the whole crew at BBC decided to go down there and have an evening out, and then there's a little ferry, which is